Hello, we got the Fixvirus Show. We are going to discuss three items today. November 26th. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in the background here. So I don't know if you know, but I'm a soccer enthusiast, and knowing the German soccer scene, that's the bells of Simona Petra. So I'm Greek. I'm Tony Zafiropoulos. I don't know if you guessed that. So I have the Greek flag here. I have some German tanks that I have like a hobby of military history. And I also have soccer that I follow in Germany and England and Greece. So that is basically the background here. And of course, I got my Fixvirus uh, little informational items here. So, three cybersecurity items that we're going to discuss. So, first of all, let's discuss the multi-factor authentication news story that came out that basically said that criminals are trying to bypass it using several methods. So multi-factor authentication is slightly better than two-factor authentication. So if you're logging into your email or your network with a username and password, that's single-factor authentication. So two-factor authentication, you could be logging on, but you have to use another method also to get that, to fulfill the logon process. So for example, you're going to get a text message on your phone that has a number on it that you have to put in as well, and then you can log in. So, the hackers, if you set up a defensive strategy, the hackers will try to bypass it. It's just the way this whole thing works. You have to start to just assume, no matter what you're doing, there will be people that will try to bypass your defensive methodologies. So what do we do when we have this realistic situation on us? Well, we have us auditors. What we do to help the clients is we have to assess their risk assessment. So that's the second thing I wanted to talk about. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the multi-factor authentication and the fact that even though multi-factor authentication is a very good defensive strategy, it can be bypassed as well. I mean, requires a little more doing maybe. They might have to take your phone over, or depending on what your software is for MFA. But so, the internet wasn't designed for security. So we're developing these layers of software on top of it to try to make it more secure. So therefore, software, and I wanted to mention this in the cybersecurity risk assessments, software will always have some flaws. The key is to reduce risk. Keep updated on the new risks. You have to constantly be checking out websites. So interestingly enough, I created this security news analyzed page on my oversight sentry. Here, let me show you that's my page right here. So, I update this periodically and I change the different settings, but I have over 30 websites that I will review for different reasons. And I explain a little bit of what each one, why I would go to each one. Some of them are news sites, some of them like Storm Center are very sophisticated um, cybersecurity researchers, and on and on. And there's some people that are the analysts, security experts. So we'll go over that again another time. I just wanted to kind of briefly go over that. So obviously, if you are some basic cybersecurity is to change your default passwords. I want to reiterate that because it's just so basic and people sometimes don't do it. So again, going back to the bypassing multi-factor authentication, what is your weak link? You have to figure that out. And it seems to me like that your email and your phone is now your weak link. So you better have your passwords set up correctly. You better be constantly monitoring your email and your phone. You know, personally I have like a second phone myself. So if one phone has compromised, I still have another phone so I can at least try to get the other one back. So let's talk a little more detail on cybersecurity risk assessment. So let's say there's a story in one of the tech news world here. Let's say we have Windows 7 end of life. That's an interesting story. I mean, it's been coming a while ago. Microsoft will end support for Windows 7 on January 14, 2020. Well, what happens then? That means that it won't be patched anymore. So if it won't be patched anymore, then a vulnerability that comes out will stay vulnerable. So a hacker that developed a vulnerability would be able to attack and take over your machine. So when a company says this software is now end of life, that means you pretty much have to upgrade. You're going to have to get some other system. So how would you assess, what should I do about that? Well, this is where risk assessment comes along. So let's say you have Windows 7 end of life. Let's say you have two machines. They're not really that important. They're in the back. A couple of people, the part-time people use it. So you're looking at the consequences of one of those machines getting hacked. Well, then people are still going to be in your network. So I would say the consequence is at least major. If you look at the cybersecurity risk assessment here, I mean, it could spiral and become a lot worse. Definitely between moderate and major. So what is the likelihood of somebody actually making a attack that's successful on a Windows 7 end of life machine? So as time goes on, so maybe not like in January 24th, 10 days later, but let's say June, July 2021, you still haven't upgraded by then, the likelihood goes up. So now from unlikely, we're going to go to moderate, to likely, and then maybe to certain. I mean, if it's 5 years later, you pretty much can assume your machine will be hacked. It just will. It's interesting how that works. So that's kind of how that works. It's how you create a cybersecurity risk assessment. We took an actual story from November 19 on Tech News World and applied it. So what else do I want to talk about? I'd like to talk about the most likely attack angle. So let's say which attack is the most likely for people to get attacked? Well, it's phishing. So I'll go back to that. So if you have a phishing attack, here is a phishing email that I received a few days ago, also on November 19. it says your wireless bill is ready to view. And it says your balance due is $712. So if you look at all the links, I know, I didn't actually write them on here, but so you could see it. But each one of these links is actually looks very legitimate. It goes to an AT&T web page. So really what they're trying to do here is they're trying to get you to click on the document, the Word document. That's why they're also saying wireless bill is ready to view. They want you to click on the Word document. Probably has malware. So if you were like really busy and didn't really pay attention, then you saw, hey look, I've got a $700 balance. What? I'm going to click on this to see what's going on. And that's when you would get hacked. So you have to create rules. Educate yourself. Is this familiar or is it unfamiliar? Why? I always need to get confirmation. First of all, if you're clicking on a link on an email, never do that unless you absolutely know that is correct. So on this kind of an email, I would go to the AT&T website separately, log in with my login, check out my bill there. I would never click on a document. So you have to create your own rules. You have to create your own anti-phishing defense. So, I mean, this is where we're at these days. So you have to defend against phishing. And I just wanted to go over, this is an interesting overall security look. So if you look at this, if you want to be completely secure, you should not look at just cybersecurity. You should look at telephone security, your phones, physical security, of course, CCTV cameras. And there's such a thing as RF security. If we live in this, spy versus spy world now, because all these technologies are really not that hard to obtain. And you have to be aware of it. Don't spend too much time. I mean, it's probably not that likely in the risk assessment world. Is it likely that you're going to get attacked with a radio frequency attack, where somebody puts something on you and then starts to record everything that you say, or something like that? I mean, it depends. It depends on the industry you're in, but most likely this is not a likely occurrence. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, but it's nice to be aware of it. Awareness is good. So that's kind of what I wanted to. I kind of jumped around a little bit from my regular slides here, but I think just wanted to go over those three items: the phishing, the multi-factor authentication, which is now hacker target, and just to discuss risk assessment again. Well, should I give you a little bit more Simone Petra? I backed it up a little. Here's the end. There you go. Now it's the end. Now we're at the end. Alright. Thank you very much. Click on like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to be changing and reassessing what I do here constantly. So let me know if you decide what to tell me what you think.